to record. So aggressive, so unnecessary. So once again, thank you for being here on Saturday morning of the workshop mixtape. We had a wonderful night last night, kicking things off for those in attendance. If this is your first time here today, welcome. We're happy you're here. Make sure to check, and at the end of this, I will kind of give a map of what the rest of the day will look like. We'll have quite a few workshops. We'll have a music hour. We'll have some really cool stuff happening. But I'm honored here to be your panelist for this Women in Music speaker event. We have three wonderful women in music who are just starting off their careers. So they are going to give some fantastic thoughts, some fantastic advice, and just kind of share their journeys as they're figuring stuff out. It's a good time. So I would love to introduce these three wonderful people to you today. So first, India Hairston. She was raised in Baltimore, Maryland. She's a life member of the Theta Phi chapter of Tau Beta Sigma at Hampton University, where she was initiated in 2016. During her time at Hampton, India played tuba and was the first female section leader of the sousaphones for the marching force. India served as chapter president for 2 consecutive terms as an active member. She also served as Northeast District Vice President of Membership. Ms. Hairston was also awarded the Baton Award after her service as VPM for the Northeast District Council for the 2019-2020 year. She currently serves as the Vice President for Tau Beta Sigma in the Northeast District Alumni Association. And she's also one of our newest additions of Chapter Visitation Assistant, which we're very happy to have her. She completed her BA from Hampton, majoring in music in 2018. She went back and she received her master's in music education from Hampton after that. She started teaching middle school band and high school music theory in Newport News, Virginia. Then she decided to move back to Baltimore and continue the musical excellence at her alma mater, Western Senior High School. She has the honor of being the current band director at the oldest operating all-girls school in the nation. In her spare time, India enjoys marching in her mother's community band and spending time with her dog. She still finds time to connect with her friends and marching force family in Hampton. India currently lives in Baltimore. Welcome, India. Our next panelist is Julia Vigor. Welcome, Julia. Julia is the elementary music teacher and 7-12 grade choir director at the Upper Scioto. Is that right, Julia? Scioto? I don't know.
Sciota. Everybody does it. It's weird.
It's Sciatica, I don't know, Scioto Valley School District in McGuffey, Ohio. She holds a bachelor's degree in music education from Capital University, graduating in the spring of 2021. She is a life member of the Iota Epsilon chapter in the North Central District. Julia recently served as North Central District Vice President for Special Projects. Julia is a proud member of the Tau Beta Sigma Alumni Association. Welcome, Julia. We're happy to have you here. And last but certainly not least, we have Braden Wyrick. Braden is the instrumental music teacher at Hinton Community School District in Northwestern Iowa, where she teaches and administers all aspects of the band program for students in grades 5 through 12, including 4 concert bands, a jazz band, pep band, and individual small group lessons. She additionally performs in the Siouxland community as a woodwind player and is a strong supporter of diverse composers and conductors through her involvement with several regional and international organizations. Braden graduated magna cum laude from Oklahoma State University in 2020 with a Bachelor of Music in Music Education and Honors College degree. She is a life member of the Alpha chapter of Tau Beta Sigma and currently serves on the National Music Education and Musicianship Committee. So, welcome, Braden. Thank you all for being here. And I just realized I forgot to get the questions up. So give me one moment. Maybe I'll vamp a little bit. Where did it go? I sent it to you guys a couple days ago. But we'll kind of go round robin. I'll ask questions to specific people. If anybody wants to jump in at any time, please do. This question will be for all of you. We will start with Braden, then go to India, and then finish with Julia. So hard-hitting questions to begin with. Name the moment you knew that you wanted to teach music.
Well,
This question is a little bit different for me than I guess probably a lot of people. I know there are so many people who were like, when I joined band in 5th grade, I knew I was going to be a band director forever. And that was definitely not how it was for me at all. So I always liked band. I always was good at band, but I was like, like I also like graphic design, and graphic designers make more money than clarinet players or band teachers or whatever. So I'm going to be a graphic designer and I'll just like play clarinet on the side. It'll be fine. So I spent like all of high school, like I'm going to be a graphic designer. I went to OSU. I was studying ad communications, but I also had scholarships to be in the concert and marching dance. And it was just like sometime in my fall semester, I was having like way too much fun in marching dance. And I was like, I don't want to stop doing this. And I like heard all of my music ed friends talking about like their methods classes where they were like learning how to play the bassoon and the euphonium. And I was just like, this sounds like way more fun than like arguing over the best breed of cattle, which is what we were doing in my like ag speech class. I was like, I was in 4-H and was super involved in that. So I thought I was gonna like fit in with these people, and like nothing against them. They were awesome, but I was like, these are not my people. So I changed to music ed in the spring of my freshman year. And then like looking back, there were a lot of moments where I was like, oh yeah, okay, I should have realized at that point that this is what I wanted to do. Specifically, I think about my experiences in the Iowa All-State Band for 3 years and how I loved that so much. And especially after my first year would not shut up about it for months, I was like, you know, I really should have realized at that point that I should have been a band director. But yeah, so there were like several different things where, you know, I didn't realize it at the time, but like looking back, it was like, oh yeah, that, yes. So that's kind of my story.
Cows, less sign than clarinets. That's a good thing. That's a good formula to remember. Good deal. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. My story is actually pretty similar to Braden's. It's not it wasn't like in college, but before I went off to college, I was always in band from like 6th grade. I started to play the flute, and I was like, you know, this is fun. And I was like, well, but you know, I want to experience other things. So I was a cheerleader the entire time from like 5 years old all the way up to when I was 17. So I really thought that I was going to end up going to University of Louisville, and I thought I was going to be a cheerleader. Like that was going to be what I was going to do. Now, what I was going to study, I didn't know. And then I ended up injuring myself to the point where I wasn't going to cheer anymore. And I was like, well, you know, I still like to do band. So I might just continue it. So my senior year, I actually started, I joined marching band in my senior year of high school, which was crazy because nobody else did that. So when I joined it, I was like, this seems like something I could do. And then I was like, the band directors seem like they're having fun. The drum majors are in charge of people and they're having fun. I was like, I think I could do this. So then when I went and I was applying for schools, I was like, well, I don't really know what I want to study in because I didn't really think I was like extraordinary, like good at something or interested in anything. And then I was like, but I keep on going back to music, so maybe that's what I'm most interested in. So then it actually just worked out that I applied for a music ed program and I ended up getting in. So it worked out. I just didn't think that was the trail I was expected to go on, like through all my years of just having band as an extracurricular activity.
Very cool. Cheerleading over, but I just love that everybody's journey is different. And some people, some musicians, some music teachers start into music when they're 3, some start when they're 17, but it's everyone's path is different. Excellent. Julia.
Hi, y'all. So my story was a little bit more traditional. I always knew that I wanted to be a teacher, and I thought I was going to be an English teacher for the longest time. I had never done band until high school just because I went to schools where I couldn't. I went to private school and elementary school. We didn't have a band. And then I went to public school and middle school, and the band director was like, you can't be in band because you haven't, like, you don't have the experience. Like you can't just hop in, which in retrospect now as like a music educator, why on earth would you do that? But anyways, so in high school, my band director was like, well, that's silly. Of course you can be in band. So I started playing euphonium in high school, and he was so supportive, and I really loved band, and I had always wanted to do it. And like, I felt like I found my people, and I loved it so much. And to me, I just wanted to share that love with as many people as I could. I always see it as my goal. If I can create people that love music and just want to keep it in their life, I'm successful in what I do. And I've always just had that drive to do that. So around my sophomore year of high school, after playing for about a year, I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to be an English teacher anymore. I want to be a band teacher. And that was kind of all she wrote on that.
It's awesome. Yeah. And it's hard to hear of a music teacher being not inclusive. Like that's frustrating because there's so many things that pulls kids every which way, and music is the thing for everybody. So that sucks, but I'm glad that you went past that and kind of in defiance and somewhat. You're like, nope, absolutely not. Like you will not decide that for me, as strong people do. Excellent. All right, I've got some individual questions, and if anybody feels like they would like to bust in as well, please do. This question is for India. Who were your biggest inspirations in the band world growing up?
Okay, so my biggest inspirations, one of them was definitely my flute instructor when I was in the 7th grade. He was very nurturing, and it was different to see a guy playing flute. Like normally when I was younger, you didn't see too many guys picking up a flute. So to see him actually like play and pick up a flute, and he always just pushed me to be a better student and to be a better player. And he would invite me to go, and we would go perform like at churches, or we would go perform for different functions. So then it was really getting me that exposure of, oh, I'm out here, oh, I'm playing, oh, I'm doing something that I love. So he was one of my biggest inspirations, along with my high school band director, who was absolutely phenomenal. And at the time, he retired my senior year. So that really pushed me in the direction of, I want to be like him when I was growing up, or when I was going off to college. And it just made me, it inspired me to be a better player, because they let me like find my own path. It wasn't like sit down and play this music all the time. It was like, we'll experiment, go and practice and see what you like to play. So that's what inspired me, and it gives me that hands-on experience, but then also that experience for me to find my own way in music, and how I want to play music, or how I want to deal with being in the music world.
Excellent. Yeah, that makes sense. Excellent. Julia or Braden, would you like to come on in as well? It's up to you guys. I also have specific ones for you guys too, so either way. Okay. I whisper when I don't know what else to say. It's okay. Okay, this next question is for Julia. Two-part question. Did your chapter have lots of music majors? And did this influence your career path in any way?
Yeah, so I feel like my chapter is a little bit more unique in terms of, I guess, population, because we don't have a marching band at Capitol, and we're a conservatory. So I would say maybe 90% of the chapter consists of music majors. So it's a really music major heavy chapter, which has pros and cons. Like it's really nice to talk to people that are going through the exact same thing as you. And it's also really nice to talk to people who aren't going through the same thing as you. It definitely makes it a little bit harder to plan service events, but like that's a whole other thing. But yeah, so mostly music majors, really cool sometimes, not so cool other times. But it didn't really influence my career. It just more so influenced my connection, because the really cool thing about having so many music educators, and it was funny because the non-music majors most of the time were just education majors for childhood education. So it was basically just like a big lump of people that like to teach, which was cool. So like building connections was really cool in that way. And I still talk to sisters in my chapter regularly, and we kind of like workshop ideas and ask for advice. So it was a really cool thing. So music majors didn't necessarily change what I did.
Yeah. So follow-up question to that, were you part of a competitive marching band in high school, or did you ever experience that cult that we call marching band?
I unfortunately did not get to experience the cult firsthand. Where I grew up in Western New York, we didn't have marching bands. Like, really, marching band is like such a huge thing in the Midwest, but once you branch out of there, it's not always a thing, which was really interesting when I started to help co-teach marching band last year, and I had no experience with the sport. And now I do, and it's great. And it just makes me wish that I had, because it's literally so fun. So
Sure.
yeah.
That's such a cool experience that way. Like, so I'm sure coming to convention and just talking with chapters, be like, so what do you do all day Saturday? Like, what? It's crazy. Excellent. Braden or India, would you like to jump in on this question at all? Okay. Braden, next question is for you. I know as you guys are all, or you are all starting your careers, but especially within teaching, there's multiple professional opportunities. So Braden, how has being a sister impacted your professional career?
Well, as a sister, I got really good at doing obscure service projects like loading all of the uniforms onto a charter bus. And all of the parents were impressed with how fast I could do that when we took our kids to Orlando this year. But on a more serious note, as other than just like the practical skills of like, I have had to carry cases of water all over the place. I can do that. I spent a year as the VPSP of my chapter, which was a lot of like event planning and stuff. And that has been super helpful as a band director. I am the only band director in our district. And I'm teaching 512. So it's like, all right, we're going to an honor band and it's just me and like taking all the kids or like figuring out like concert logistics and all of that stuff. And luckily I have a lot of experience doing things like that through TBS and getting to, work with my sisters doing that as a student makes me slightly less scared to have to do it myself now. Yeah, that's one big thing that I can think of. It's also just like the connections are super nice that I made that I still like get to use. There aren't a ton of TBS sisters like in Northwest Iowa because there aren't a lot of chapters in Iowa or South Dakota or Nebraska, but maybe we can change that soon. But just like having that connection of like, I am a sister and like, I happened to mention something about it at the Iowa Bandmasters Conference and someone sitting next to me was like, oh, I'm a sister. And I think she's actually from your chapter, Leslie.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And just making those connections with people. And it's a good conversation starter to be like, oh, I'm a sister, you're a sister, let's be friends. And I still keep in touch with some of my sisters that are music ed people. My big is a band director. And so just getting to use those connections as well and like share ideas is super awesome.
Excellent. Yeah, we will populate the Iowa masses soon, Braden. Don't you worry. We'll handle this. We'll take care of it. But so we have a question from wonderful Malia from Delta Alpha at Langston. She asked, and this could be for any of y'all. Do any of you have tips for better ear training or to understand music theory? And also any general tips to feel fully competent? Well, I could answer that one. You won't feel fully competent when you graduate, but you will just do the best you can and go from there. But would someone please answer the ear training and music theory question? Julia, go for it.
I will say, I feel like I'm kind of the CEO of not knowing what's going on, like in your first year. So know that it's okay because obviously, like I've talked this whole time about like band stuff and wanting to be a band director. And when Leslie introduced me, I'm a choir teacher, was not expecting that. Never had taught choir before. So like, it's fine and it's great now and I love it. And if you're wondering why, elementary is like really my field house, hence why I took that job. But anyways, I wanted to make sure when I graduated that I had a really good ear. So like ear training is actually something I spend a lot of time on. There was a website I used. I'll drop it in the chat. But what I would do is like my walk to work was like 40 minutes long. And I would literally just like on my way to work, like practice intervals. And the website has all these different ear training exercises where they'll play things for you and you have to identify them. They have like music theory concepts. And like over the summer, I would just sit there and noodle with that. It was really cool. And then in terms of like feeling more confident as a band director, which like Leslie said that you won't, and it's sad to say, but you won't. You just learn and go and it's fine. But making sure you take the time to work on your secondary instruments and get your chops good on those as much as you can. That can be hard if you don't have the instruments, which is totally understandable. But if you do, maybe taking those out for like 20 minutes a day and just buying a standards of excellence or traditions of excellence or whichever methods book you use and working through that and just getting your chops good.
Excellent. India, go ahead.
I definitely agree with Julia. The one thing that I definitely would do is I use Sight Reading Factory and musictheory.net. Both of those sites, Sight Reading Factory you have to pay for, musictheory.net is free. With both of those sites, they have theory lessons, and then sight reading obviously has the sight reading part to it. So I would just look at those and either like try to sing the part or on my instrument play it, because if you can sing it, you can play it. If you can play it, you can sing it. So when I used to take that, I used to just either try to sing, or I'll be like, oh, okay, well, I know that this is do, so then I'm gonna move on from there. And about feeling more confident, there's you just have to not guess, but you just have to make yourself feel confident. So when I was teaching middle school, if I wasn't confident on an instrument, I would play that instrument every single day with my kids. And I mean, every single day I would have out a clarinet because I'm not strong in clarinet. So if you have the ability when you become a teacher, director, or whatever, you just make sure that you pull out that instrument and just keep on practicing. Like I'm a good trombone player now because I used to play trombone all the time with my kids. And it just builds that relationship with them because they're learning and then you're learning too. So you'll be like, oh my gosh, I just messed up. They'll be like, oh, Miss Hairston, oh, you messed up. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it again now since I messed up. So it just builds that bond that makes them more confident, and then it makes you confident because you're learning with them. So they like that too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Sorry.
I don't really have anything to add that hasn't already been said, but definitely ditto on the play the instruments you're not good at. My kids have made fun of me for playing trumpet in front of them so many times. Like it's one of my worst instruments, but is also one of the strongest sections in my high school band. Like the only all-stater in the last 10 years from my school is a trumpet player. So the kids are like, you know, you could just have Emily play that. Like she would be better than you. And I'm like, I know, but I gotta not suck. And just a couple of days ago, I was like playing trombone honor band etudes along with one of my kids, and like I'm getting so much better at trombone and like actually remembering my positions now. So definitely do that. And also hello to Delta Alpha. I'm from Alpha and we're like pals. So yay.
That's awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, I think they all made a good point that it's going to be scary to begin with, but you just do what you know and just do your best and just go to bed tired every day, just wanting to do better the next day. And the kids will see that authenticity and go for it. I think we all, as musicians, whether music teachers, musicians or not, we all, after playing for so long on different instruments, you develop relative pitch without realizing it. Like things will happen. So you'll be better than what you think you are at that stuff. Just keep practicing, just keep doing stuff like that. I think it's cool. If anybody's looking for instruments, I have a tip for that. Sorry, the moderator is jumping in here, but shop Goodwill. Like Goodwill has online stores and they have an auction site. So you can find most of the main instruments for $20, $30. Like just watch out for the shipping costs, but like since you guys all as musicians know the right brands and stuff, like you can build up your collection, even go to your pawn shops in your local area, go to garage sales, find stuff like that. Like yeah Siobhan, I think the National Council at different times has in individually has been with me on a phone call as I meet somebody in a parking lot to either sell an instrument or pick up an instrument. It is a thing. It's not necessarily part of the teaching aspect, but it is, the equipment is good that way for sure. We have another question, and whomever would like to answer it, please do. As young band directors, do you feel is it easier to connect with the students more than the your colleagues as band directors, as teachers? And then do you feel like as a young teacher, do you feel like you can connect with the students more, and how so in that way, basically? Julia, go for it.
Hi again. I do feel like it is easier to relate to the students, mostly because the difference between me and some of the older teachers is that I have TikTok and they don't, which is like totally fine, obviously. I do think though there's a line, and I think especially as you're a young teacher, it's important to be aware of that line and boundaries, just because you look young and you know things that they know. And sometimes they'll say things and you know what it means and it's inappropriate and like they should not be saying it, but if you call them out on it, they know that you know. And that's always like a really interesting situation to navigate. So like it is cool to know what they're talking about sometimes, but I wouldn't say it's like this amazing thing that just makes you cool, because it's really not about being cool. It's about building respect and knowing things. So like it's okay if you have no idea what they're talking about. That happened to me for like the first time this year. There was like one meme they said, it was like the Starbucks K-pop one, and I had no idea what that meant for a while. I was like, what are you talking about? And like it was fine, it's not a big deal.
So could you explain to the older generation here what the heck you're talking about?
Oh, like
The Starbucks K-pop? Sorry.
like the dumbest thing ever, and if anybody likes that, I'm so sorry, but like it was just like this annoying voice saying Starbucks cake pop, and that they would just say it like that, like in this high-pitched voice, and that was literally all it was. And it was not worth it.
Well, no matter the generation, students are weird, so it's a thing. So that's fair. India, go ahead.
I definitely think I relate more to my students. Definitely teaching high school. I'm not closer in age, but I am closer in age to them, especially because I have sisters that are their age. So I'm definitely more relatable to them. And the people that are my colleagues, some of them actually taught me. So I think it's a little weird for me because I still have that, oh, you're still a teacher to me. And it's just weird because now I'm a teacher too. So that relationship is very weird to navigate. But with my kids, when I try to relate to them, sometimes I do reverse psychology. So if they try to say like, oh, Miss Harrison, we're talking about something inappropriate, I'm just like, well, how do you know what that means? Or what does it mean? Or you tell me what it means. And then they tell me, and then I'm just like, yeah, why do you guys even know about that? So when I do it, they're like, but do you know? And I'm just like, no, like inform me. But 9 times out of 10, I already know what they're talking about. And it just, like one day I didn't have all my classes, so I might have just had the sophomores, and having that individual time with them, we did boom whackers, and then they were like, oh, Miss Hairston, can we put it on TikTok? I was like, yeah, sure, let's have fun with this. And then we even like did a dance together. So just like stuff like that is easier for me to relate to them, just because they know that like I'm the teacher that's not like the one that's going to let them get away with everything, but they know that they can do different things in my class to explore music rather than just sitting down and learning.
Yeah, so both of them talked a lot about the connecting with students, and I want to talk a little bit about the connecting with the other teachers thing, because that like basically same things as Julie and India have said. Like I'm pretty close in age, or like closer in age to a lot of the students than the other teachers, so like it hasn't been that much of an issue. But the connecting with the other like colleagues has been hard. A lot of it I think is because I'm like the only band teacher, and I'm like the only one that really understands what happens in my room. Like my elementary music teacher and choir director were both in high school bands, so like they sort of know, and I love them, and they've been super awesome. But in general, nobody really understands band at all, and a lot of them are a lot older than me. Like I was the only like first year teacher at the school last year. And I'm basically like the only teacher that's not married and doesn't have kids and like all of this stuff. So it's like weird. And I feel like I'm in a totally different place in my life than pretty much everyone else in this whole school. But yeah, there's just a lot of weird things. Like it's like a law in Iowa that everyone is assigned a mentor from their school for the first 2 years of teaching, and you like go to these workshops together and whatever. So I was assigned a math teacher as my mentor, who has been at the school for 10 years. And when he came in to check on me during PD before school started, he was like, "Oh, this is a nice setup you got down here." And my choir director was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Oh, I've never actually been to the band room before." And like there's all this stuff like that where I'm just like, what the heck? But like suggestions, do your best to try to get to know them. Like I have met some other teachers who are older than me in, you know, completely different places in their life, teach science, which I don't really understand. But there are still ways to like form connections. And I've got involved in our like local education association, which is like kind of connected me to some of the other teachers. And so whenever they have gatherings of like, hey, let's go to the local restaurant after school and hang out. Like, even if I don't really know anyone, I try to go anyway and try to learn things. I learned a lot and met some of the preschool teachers last time who I had never talked to because they're in a different building. So just when you have opportunities to try to meet other teachers in your school, do the best that you can. Even if you don't think that you have a lot in common with them, you might find something. And also meet the other band directors around, because they're super cool, or choir or whatever you're teaching. Meet the other people in the schools around you, because especially in Northwest Iowa, we are a lot of really small schools, and a bunch of us are there's one or maybe two directors in our school district. And there's a ton of first year teachers, because there's a ton of small schools that people don't necessarily want to stay at for 30 years. So there are a lot of people around, and they're cool, and hang out with those people too, because you can learn a lot from them.
Yeah, for sure. Excellent points for everybody. Yeah, it's nothing like teaching at a small school. In places I've taught, we have like professional development, which sometimes they do professional learning communities. There's always some sort of acronym coming out every couple of years by some leaders in education. But so you have like the core subjects, and then you're put in the miscellaneous with the shop teacher and the PE teacher, and you're sitting here going, this is such a great use of time. So this is going really great. So you're literally sitting there, you're trying to participate and do the right things, but then you also are doing a million other things, because prep times, if you have a program that's growing, prep time does not exist for music and band directors. So veering off of the teaching world a little bit, we have a question from lovely Ashlyn from Beta Zeta at Stephen F. Austin University. Do you have any advice for keeping music in your life outside of your career for those of us who aren't going into music? Excellent question.
I don't know how to do the raise hand thing like India and Julie were doing before, but I have things to talk about. I have found a lot of really cool ensembles in my community to stay involved with that are pretty like minimal commitments that I would encourage you to look and see if they have those in your community. I play in the Siouxland All-America Band during the school year, which just has rehearsals on Wednesday nights once a week, and then we do 2 concerts a semester. And it is a lot of band directors and retired band directors, but also some community college students and people who do various other things with their lives, but still play their instrument at a pretty high level. And so that's really fun. In the summer, I have been playing in the Sioux City and Lamar's municipal bands, which in Iowa, our municipal bands are paid, which is nice. So thanks, Iowa band law. It's not a lot of money. but it's something. And those are just like, we play an outdoor concert every week in the summer. So it's just like one rehearsal, one concert. The next week there's new music. And it's a lot of similar people that play in those. Some people have been playing in uni bands for like 50 years or something. And they're not a musician for their job, but they just really love music. And we're playing things this week like whole second suite, so it's not like trash music either. Like it's good stuff. And then I also love musical theater. So I was telling Leslie before we started, I'm playing Legally Blonde this weekend. And it's super fun. So if you have community theaters in your area, a lot of times, especially in the summer around here, they do musicals. Ask them if they have a live pit, and play in it, because those are super fun too. It's a different kind of challenge than playing concert band, because you have like 17 flats, and then you switch instruments, and then you got 17 sharps, and then the time signature changes, and then you have to wait for the singer to do the thing before you can play the thing. It's a lot, but it's super different and super fun. So yes, those are several different ways. Even if you're not even if you aren't doing music as your career, seek out those opportunities in your community. They're super fun.
Excellent. India.
So I definitely agree with everything that Braden said. Community bands is like a big thing. Like if you can find a little small community, or like a teaching, not like a professional teacher, but like a lot of retired band directors end up having like little small ensembles that they put together, and they play just for different things that people ask for. On the East Coast, I know a big thing is like mass band, like during the summertime. So a lot of times, a lot of old band directors, some students, they all get together, and it's like marching band, but it's everybody from in that area. So they'll have like an Atlanta mass band, or they'll have like a Maryland DMV mass band. So it's a really big thing. And normally you just play marching band music. So if you're looking for more of like the concert band feel or any kind of music, another thing that I do is, if you know band directors in the area, ask them if they need help. A lot of times they'll say yes. And especially with marching band coming up, a lot of times they'll use people as clinicians or people that can help a certain section, because it's hard for us to reach everybody during band camp. So I know a lot of times that's another great way to keep playing, is to help with the ensembles that they're going to need help with eventually anyways.
Excellent. Julia, you feeling okay? You good?
Yeah, the only other group that I can think of, because like those are all amazing. The only other thing I can think of is, if like you're interested in that kind of thing, some churches will have like brass bands, or they'll have like opportunities for you to play, if that's another way that you want to keep music in your life.
Excellent. Cool. All right. So let's do this question starting with Braden, and then we'll go around. Julia, then India. How do you balance your work, personal life in the early stages of your career?
That one is hard for me because so being a 512 director, I do all of the things. So there are always things to be done, and I just really, really love band. So sometimes I'm just like working on stuff for school all the time, and it doesn't necessarily feel like work, because it's like I'm arranging TikTok sea shanties for my saxophone ensemble. Like that's fun. But I have to like be conscious that like sometimes it's okay to like wait until tomorrow to do that. And if I need to just like sit on the couch, watch YouTube, and cuddle my cat, like the world is not going to end. And there have been so many times where I'm like, well, I should do this thing for school. And it's like, you know what? No, like I'm not going to feel bad about going to Sioux Falls for a day and seeing Come From Away. Like I need my life, and school can wait. So I guess just try to find things that matter to you, like, and find places close by where you can do them, and then just be okay with the school thing can happen tomorrow, because I
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah. Some excellent points. Work will always be there, but yeah, find a hobby. I had a good, I think my wind symphony professor when I was in college, he said, no matter what, no matter how busy things get, because they are always busy, take at least 30 minutes to yourself each day. Whether that could be a TV show, that could be a book, that could be something, that could be a walk. Find something to just push everything out, because otherwise that will just close in on you for sure. Absolutely. India, on this happy, lovely note.
Okay, so I make sure that every week there's one day where I do something. So one thing is that on Wednesday at 7:15, I do Zumba. That is my thing. Nobody interrupts that. Everybody knows every Wednesday, don't call me, don't ask for me, don't say we're doing this. No, I'm going to Zumba, and that is my way to relieve the stress that I have from the week. So I just find ways to navigate and make sure that I set out time aside for myself, and I make sure that if I'm gonna balance something, I don't bring my laptop home during the week. So Monday through Thursday, my laptop stays at school. When I leave school, my work is done. Now, 9 times out of 10, I don't leave school until 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, especially when marching band season's going on. 7:30, 8 o'clock is the time that I leave. So after that, I make sure that when I go home, I'm strictly focused on what's going on at home. And then when I come back in the morning, guess what? My work's still there. So during the week, I do not bring my laptop home. I keep my work at work, and I try not to do any work when I get home, just because it blurs the lines, and then it makes it so that I can enjoy the time at home, because then I'm thinking about, oh, I have to grade this paper. Oh, I have to make sure that this music is written. So I just like to keep that separation very clear with me, because that's just how my brain works.
Yeah, excellent points. Julia, how do you separate the craziness of life and your job and everything?
I do think like managing your work-life balance is quite possibly one of the hardest things we do as educators, just because if you struggle to manage that line, your life becomes infinitely harder because you get burnt out. And once you get burnt out, it's really hard to get out of that place. So it's something where if you're not keeping up on your boundaries and your health, it catches up. And like, so that's kind of scary, but there's ways to prevent that. Kind of when I'm looking at my own boundaries, I look at it as both mental/emotional and physical. So with my mental emotional things, I also try to keep my work at school, and I just think of the mentality of like the work will always be there, which is kind of scary but also really comforting to know that no matter how many things I check off my to-do list, the to-do list will not be done until either summer break or until I retire. Like there will always be something to do. So there is no reason to rush home and continue to work, because even if I knock that thing off, guess what? There's going to be 5 more things on the list tomorrow. So it really doesn't matter. I also think once you get home, trying to find something small that you can do that you like, even if that's just decompressing and watching YouTube, that's fantastic. I think having the physical boundary is really important too, especially for folks who work in smaller schools where you're doing 512, 712, K12. You really have a lot of commitments, and especially during marching band season, I'm at school until 7 or 8 o'clock at night every single day, because I have marching band that I help with. I have my own show choir, and then I also help with the play/musical, whatever drama department is doing. So I do a lot of things. I don't really get paid for those things sometimes, so that's a problem. But so I could say no if I wanted to, I guess, which you see how hard it is. But knowing not to commit more than that. So if like somebody on staff asks me to do something, it is so tempting to just say yes right away without thinking. I try to redirect it a little bit and just say like, give me like a day or two to think about it, just to make sure that I can fully commit to this project. And if I can, I'll say yes. But if I know I can't, I'm going to say no, because I already know I have enough going on. And also making sure you have hobbies that aren't music, because I participate in community band and community choir throughout the year, and I love it. But those are like 2-hour rehearsals that go till like 9 o'clock at night on a weeknight. So like that to me is still music, which I love, but you need to find things other than music too, or otherwise you're just music, 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 bed, music, music, music. And that can get really tiring really quick. So yeah.
Yeah, they're all excellent points. I think as much as it's hard to have hobbies, and it doesn't seem like a 7-hour school day would take over life, but then music, extracurricular, like it's a grind. There's different days for different things, but even just finding one thing, or just even just recognizing that it's a lot, and just to acknowledge it and just take it day by day. Siobhan and I had this conversation. This was a couple months ago. I think it was at one of the conventions, but we just, as we all do, we were chatting, and she's like, "Oh yeah, how's school going?" And I gave her how many days till spring break. And I remember her saying, sorry, I'm calling you out right now, Siobhan, but she's like, teachers are always telling me a countdown of when they're done with something. I was like, it's kind of a survival tool in some way, because we're always like, it's such a unique profession that we always are moving on to the next thing. So we're focused on that at that point, but it's also helpful to know that that there's an end in sight, or there's something new to look forward to, or a break session or something like that. But that is a unique thing. You don't talk to somebody who works at a bank, be like, "Oh, how's your job? 3 more days until," not so much, but stuff like that. But yeah. Yeah, no, Siobhan has some good points. Yeah, no, that's a bad thing to ask teachers. They don't like knowing when vacation is over. We all know it, but it's the Voldemort is the thing we do not say out loud. So that's fair. All right, ladies, you are doing a fantastic job. We really appreciate you being on. I have one final question for you all, because we started out strong with a heavy question. We're going to end with a heavy question. And I don't even know the order of this, of who would like to. Basically, nose goes probably on who gets to do it first. What's one thing you wished you knew or believed in your first year of teaching?
I can go first.
Sure.
I think about it pretty often. Something I wish I had known, but it's also impossible to know at the same time, how isolating it can be sometimes to teach, especially when you are the only, like, for lack of a better word, person in your school that knows your thing. I'm very thankful that my coworker band director is a sister, and I'm thankful that like we came from the same chapter, same year of graduating. Like that is so helpful. But even then, we're the only 2 music teachers in our district, and I still feel isolated sometimes. It's really hard to make friends in my school because everybody is a lot older than me, and I try, and I do have some really cool friends like that I've made over the course of my first year there, but it can be hard. And it's really hard to transition from college, where you're basically living in a small community, where if you want to go see your friend, unless they're a commuter, you can just go knock on their door, and then you have, wow, free socialization, free serotonin. That's fantastic. Or you'll see your friends in classes and you're talking about the same things and you have the same interests, and it's beautiful. It gets hard when you break off from that and you are moving all across the state, all across the country to do all these different amazing things. So I recommend, to make that better, just keep in touch with people. My friends and I have a group chat, and we blow it up like every single day, and like we'll send like Snapchats about our school day, and we'll ask for advice. Like I know the hot gossip from all my friends' schools, and like that makes it better. But know that that feeling is there. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing, another thing you have to deal with. But if you keep in touch with people, it's not as bad.
I can go next. One thing that I wish I knew or believed in would have to be, I wish I knew COVID was coming. That was one thing, 'cause, that was my first year of teaching. So I literally taught for 6 months and then COVID hit. So I wish I knew that. But besides that, I wish I knew that the way that my brain processes and thinks about music isn't the same way that the kids see and view music, which is something that I never realized until I started teaching, because normally you're sitting next to a musician in band or you're sitting next to a music major. So 9 times out of 10, your brains are thinking and working the same way because you're so used to that, or somebody taught you the same way. So when I had to start teaching kids and I was like, you guys don't understand what I'm saying. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, so now I have to figure out another way to teach it because I'm so used to teaching, the lines are every good boy does fine. And they'll be like, oh no, it stands for every something, something, something. I'm just like, that's totally different from what I ever learned. So I wish I would have realized that everybody's brains are gonna pick up on different things in a different aspect than your own brain does, which I mean you should have learned in education, but it's just something that you never think about until you're in the situation and you have to reteach a whole different way from what you know.
So this is something that I knew, but I was kind of like, yeah. But then was like, oh, was like asking for help. Like everybody says like, yeah, find mentors, ask them for help. And you're like, yeah, okay, like I'll do that. But then like I got really scared of actually doing that. So like all of the fall semester, I was like, man, I really don't know what to do with my jazz kids. Like I did middle school and high school jazz band, but I am not like a jazzer by any means. And like there's no class in college where they teach you that. And I didn't get to do jazz while I was student teaching. So I literally don't know. And like there aren't super high expectations for jazz at my school. Like they've only had a jazz band for 5 years, but still I was just like, I don't really know what to do. I should ask someone, but then I didn't. And like when we got to contest, then it was like, yeah, okay, so I like did decent by myself, but we could have done better if I had just asked someone. And like I think I got better at doing that throughout the year. Like we had our large group contest in May for concert band, and I had like several people that I knew, like my Iowa Bandmasters retired mentor came out, and he worked with the kids, and then the conductor of one of my community bands, who he has a doctorate in conducting and is a college professor at the local university and has been in military bands. Like he was super awesome. He worked with them on like our Carl King March, and he knew all the march stuff that nobody ever teaches you. And so it was great. And I was like, man, this was fun. Like having these people work with my kids, and like it was fun for the kids and for me. And so that really showed me that like, yes, definitely ask for help. And like it's a scary thing. Like my high school band director is now the like mentorship chair for retired directors in his district. Like in Iowa Bandmasters and just in Iowa arts education in general, there's a huge thing about mentorship, and like all the first year teachers are assigned a retired mentor and an active mentor, and you have all these people trying to help you. But he said that there are so many people that are like, yeah, I don't need a mentor. And I was like, yeah, you do. Like I didn't necessarily believe it at first, but like you do. And so especially if there's someone that's willing to like assign you someone to help you out, or like someone that's willing to reach out to you, like take them up on it, because you will learn a lot.
Yeah, I think those are all excellent points, and everybody, as they go to their journey, they will figure things out themselves. But I know that they have all learned a lot today, and it was really a pleasure to hear you three wonderful people speak and give your advice on things. If everybody could give a round of applause for our wonderful women in music speakers, that'd be great. India's just clapping for herself because that's what she does. It's cool. But yeah. All right, I'm gonna unrecord, which means stop recording in the normal